Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Woohoo! And what a beautiful summer we've been having. Well, thank you all for joining us today. I'm going to share my screen here. Um, so welcome to the Topcon Bluebeam 3D PDFs webinar. My name is Vinnie Stamato. I'm a Bluebeam certified instructor, and I'm a application specialist here at Topcon. Thank you again for joining us. And so today in this webinar, I'm going to demonstrate how to create a 3D PDF and open it in Bluebeam. So Bluebeam has this capability and it has been using the 3D PDF capability for a while. The beauty of the 3D PDF is that you can share 3D model data and 3D model information with folks that don't have 3D software, such as Navisworks or Revit or SketchUp. So it can be viewed in Bluebeam, and also a 3D PDF can be viewed in other PDF viewers as well. So for today's agenda, I am going to briefly talk about Topcon solutions. Then I will demonstrate how to create a 3D PDF, and we'll go through how to navigate a 3D PDF. I'll show you the element properties and the metadata that's contained inside the PDF, and I'll show how to create different views, how to add a 3D PDF view to a 2D PDF, and also how to filter and export data. All right, so Topcon Solutions. Topcon Solutions basically is the retail division of Topcon Positioning Systems. Topcon Positioning Systems is a world leader in construction layout, machine automation, and land surveying products. In our software division, we are a platinum tier award-winning Autodesk partner and certified training center, as well as a Bluebeam level partner, as well as a Bluebeam Platinum level partner. So we've got 13 Topcon Solutions locations throughout the US and currently have in-person and online training. A bit about me. I've been in the construction industry for well over 25 years. I've worked in project management and I've also worked in the field. I've got a degree in construction management and a certification in civil construction, and I'm a Bluebeam certified instructor. And I'm just really, really excited about Bluebeam software. It's just a great product in the industry today. So let's get started. I'm going to change screens here. And we are going to start out with, this here is my Bluebeam Revu 2019. And what I've got here to show you is a 3D PDF. If you've never seen one of these before, here you go. I'm just going to manipulate this a little bit. And what I want to point out is just the clarity of this image. So we're looking at this here. What I've put together is just a model of a small three-story building. And we're going to focus on viewing the ductwork and some of the mechanical aspects of this building. All right, so I'm going to turn off my share screen. I'm going to turn off my webcam actually, so I can dig right into this. All right, there we go. Hopefully your screen's a little bit larger. So to start out with, the 3D PDF tool is available in Bluebeam Revu CAD and Extreme versions. 3D PDFs can be viewed in the standard version, but cannot be created in the standard version. So only CAD and Extreme can you actually create a 3D PDF. All right, so a 3D PDF, it can be created from an IFC file, which is an industry foundation classes file. It can be created from a U3D file, Universal 3D. It can be created from a SolidWorks part and assembly file. They could also be created from within Revit, Navisworks, and SketchUp Pro. So in this webinar, I will demonstrate converting an IFC and a U3D file from Revit into a usable 3D PDF in Bluebeam. We're going to look at creating this entire model from a IFC file, and we'll look at creating just one individual 3D view using the U3D file. All right, so I'm going to shift over here to Revit. So here's my model in Revit. So I've got this 3D, wonderful 3D model in Revit, and what I've done is I've just gone ahead and highlighted so that you could see all of the all the mechanical. So there's quite a bit of ductwork in here, and we're just that'll be kind of the focus of what we're going to look at. So under the File tab, and once again, this is Revit 2020. If I come down to Export IFC right here, this will create an IFC file. Now, to create an IFC file, something this large, it takes a minute or two, and it'll prompt you with what kinds of views you would like to see. I'm not going to go through that process and just have idle time on the screen to save time. So I went ahead and, as you saw in Bluebeam, I've already created the 3D PDF. What I do want to show you is once you create the IFC file, it will show up and you will basically get this IFC file and you'll have this little review label. I hope you can all see that. So it's not quite a PDF, so you can see the Bluebeam PDF label and then this little review icon. So this is telling me that this here is my IFC file. I double click, actually if I go into Bluebeam and go to open that up in Bluebeam, get my mouse back here. So I'm just going to come over here and navigate to my 3D PDF. Actually, I'm going to navigate to my IFC file. So if I want to open the IFC file, it's not going to show up in my browser as I'm looking for PDFs. So down here on the right, I'm just going to switch to look at all files, and there you can see is the IFC file. So I'll double click on that and it'll prompt me a couple of times as far as which views I would like to see. And I'll do that next with a much smaller model. But essentially it'll open up and give you this 3D PDF. And like I said, it takes about 2 minutes to actually create it. All right, so now that we're in here, what you'll see as, let's see, view options, show hover 3D bar. So this is what you'll see in Bluebeam is the 3D model. And it looks like I lost my roof there, not a biggie. And you can see that it's really sensitive to your picks and clicks. So I'm gonna start out with explaining the 3D hover bar, which is this bar right up here on the top left of the screen. This first box is going to be my home screen or just my home view. And then next to that, this little drop down has all these pre-loaded views. So when I created the 3D PDF from the IFC file, inside there is a prompt to ask you what views you would like. And these are the default views that it came up with, the ISO, front, top, and left views. And then you could create views, which I've created a couple of views. We'll go through this in a moment. Here's a view where I went ahead and removed the roof. And then I could come over here to manage views. So essentially I will manipulate the model, create a view that I want, click add, type in the name for the new view, and then it'll show up right in here. This little icon right here, it's just a little, it just does a little video of your 3D model. So if you're sitting in a meeting, you could sit and watch your model spin around. And then next to that, you've got either rotate or cycle through views. So cycle views is going to give you, each time you click, it will basically give you a different view that you've created. So it'll show these views kind of in succession like that. So I'll turn this one off. Next, we've got this little control bar here. So I've got different controls like rotate, spin, pan, zoom, camera view, and select. So if I'm in rotate, my left mouse, if I just hold down my left mouse, it's going to rotate the model. And you can see it's super sensitive. The thing I've noticed is that little blue crosshair is essentially its rotation point, and it's as if this model is sitting on a bowling ball, and every time you move it, it's just going to rotate and orbit around that bowling ball. Now, if you're in your model and you're rotating it around and moving it around, you get to a point where you want to get it back to normal. Kind of hard to do with the mouse. I could just click on any one of these views, and it'll take me right back. And I just use my left mouse to just kind of manipulate it a little bit more. Scroll wheel is your pan and your zoom. And once again, really good detail. Could look right inside this model and see our ductwork. All right, let me get this to a view that we could enjoy. All right, folks. So next thing I want to look at is going to be, so we've got the rotate, spin, which is essentially rotate and spin are really similar. It's like orbit, the orbit command in Revit, and then pressing down on the scroll for pan and zoom. This right here switches from perspective view to just your 3D orthogonal view. This right over here will give you different rendering options. So right here is transparent. I've got illustration, which is another nice rendering view. Here's our illustration view. So it's as if it's just done with pencil and paper. These other objects in the background are just masses that were actually in the Revit model, and they got pulled in as well. So all these different views. There's also a wireframe view. Some of these views are a little bit challenging to actually get information from. I found the best view is going to be solid, and then under lighting, there's the CAD optimized. So that kind of gives you an idea of one of the better views. All right, guys, so this little icon right here gives you your different colors, or actually your different lighting schemes. So I could do like a white scheme, primary colors. Some of these are, for whatever illustration reason you may need. And like I said, the CAD optimized, I think, is one of the better ones to look at. Background right over here. We could change our background into blue. That kind of makes it look a little bit more dramatic. I could do a light gray background. And you can see how easily this thing is moving around. I'm just manipulating this with my left mouse. So this right here is our cross section. So if I click on cross section, it's going to give me just a one cross section view. I could zoom in and see inside the model at this default cross section view. And the other option in this is going to be section box. And for those of us who use Revit, you know what the section box will do. So this will basically give us a box. If I select the edge of the box, and grab my little arrows, I could move the box in and out to create, different crop or section box views. And if I decide I wanted to keep this particular view, I could just come right over here to my manage views, add this view, front section, and then in here I've got options. So I'm looking at it kind of orthogonally, and then the display settings, I could change the display settings in this if I want. If I just hit save, let's see, view name, great. Now that particular view will be saved right over here in my views. All right, so let's take a look. If I just double click, actually I'm gonna click on that and it removes it. Another thing we'll look at is this tool right over here, which it's actually called the gizmo. It's this little 3 arrow. And if I click on the model, I get this little tool, and you can see there's arrows for the X, Y, and the Z axis. And I'm gonna go ahead and click on the Y over here and just pull my roof up. And then I could just kind of zoom in on my model. And there we go. And I could look right inside. You can see my ductwork. I could do the same if I hover and select there. I hovered and selected this ceiling. And I'm gonna pull this ceiling up. And just give you an example of that. So now I could just kind of look a little closer inside the model. The next model we're going to look at is going to be just a 3D view of one of these rooms here. So with that crop box feature, it will crop your model, but to be honest, it's not as easy as it looks to kind of create a little cropped view. You can, in Bluebeam, you can go ahead and select things that you would like to have in a view. And that's a whole nother process. We don't have a whole lot of time today, so I'm not going to get into that. But you could select items, and I could right click as soon as I select something and click on hide. So that hid my drop ceiling in there. Same here, if I select this exterior wall, right click, hide. And now let's take a look at another way to look at our model. Down here, we have the 3D model tree. That's this little 3D icon. If I right click over here in my panel access and click on show, I can see all the available panels. And the 3D model tree is one of those panels. It's this little 3D looking box. And you could undock this from this location, put it anywhere on another monitor or something if you wish. Or for this case, I'm just going to leave it down here. And basically what this is similar to your markups list in Bluebeam. It's basically showing you, I'm going to close some of these nodes, but it's showing you all of your objects. So the neat thing is, similar to in the markups list, I'm just going to click here to unselect that. So if I go ahead and click on flow segment here, it's going to highlight, turn that off, it's going to highlight all of my ductwork. And if I right click on that, I could go ahead and click on isolate, and then I could view my ductwork. This is the main reason why I wanted to use this particular model, is because you could view it from this perspective. So now I could just look at all my runs, all my ductwork. Same thing, if I just come back into this 3D model tree area, I could click on any other objects. I could click on my walls, my slabs, doors. So basically all this metadata lives right inside here. So this metadata down here is the data that is in the Revit model itself. So in a mechanical model in Revit, it's going to have a great deal of data. Things like flow, things like volume, things like supply air, return air. All right, another thing we're going to look at here shortly is how to create a report. You could basically export all of this metadata to a CSV file and then open that up in Excel. Let's take a look at our columns. So you could see here, I've got a bunch of columns. And once again, similar to the markups list, you could just grab any column and relocate it if you like. And then just to the right of the 3D model tree itself, I could click on that. Down here in columns, these are all the columns that are actually open. I could click on Manage Columns, and in this particular model, these are the columns that it imported into the IFC file, which we opened in Bluebeam. So the next model I'm going to open is going to have quite a few more columns. So I'm going to show you that here next. And then you could just go ahead and, if I click on any of these, I could turn them off, leave some of these on, and click OK. So basically you could set up whatever columns that you would like and have them visible here. And next thing, how do we get back? If I just right click and go to show all parts, there we go. And then I could right click again and go reset all parts. And it went ahead and put that roof back on. Another thing we could do while I've got this open, I'd like to show you is I could change colors of some of these objects. So say this particular wall, just hovered over it and single left click, I could right click on it and get all these different options right here. Or I could come over and turn on my properties, and I could pick a different color for that wall, say. So that's in properties. After you select something, come into properties, change the color. All right, folks. So next thing I want to do is I just want to take a peek at my notes here, make sure I'm getting everything covered that I'd like to take. So we're looking at this is basically the IFC file. So when you create an IFC file from Revit, it's going to give you the entire 3D model. Okay, you're not going to be able to kind of separate the model into little pieces. What I want to show you next is next I'm going to show you how to create a 3D PDF of a cropped down view from Revit. So if I just go right back to Revit, so in this model, I've got this one particular room with some ductwork. What I've done is I've cropped down and created this 3D view. And I want to show you another option. So in the add-ins tab, there's create PDF, change settings, and create a U3D. So the create PDF right here is just going to create a 2D PDF of what we're looking at. If I come over to create a U3D, if I select create 3D PDF right here, it's going to create a 3D PDF of the entire model, the entire building. If I click on create a U3D, it's going to create a 3D model of just this particular view. That's the difference that I wanted to show you between the U3D and the IFC. So this one will convert a little bit quicker. Here it shows up as a U3D file. And I'll save it right there. It already exists. I've already actually created one of these. So I've created the U3D. Next step is going to be going back into Bluebeam. And I'm going to go open. And I'm going to open up all my files. And I'm going to come over to here, my U3D file. We'll open this one. And this will go a little quicker. So here is my path. Here where it says add views, this second bar down, here's where I could come in and say, I want orthogonal left, top, perspective, perspective, ISO. You could just select the types of views that you want. A couple of other settings, you could set your background. Lighting scheme, I've already got set to CAD optimized. Rendering mode solid, so it'll come in pretty easy to view. So you can see for this particular one, just a couple seconds. And, in our world, 10 seconds could be a lot of time. So here's our 3D PDF of that room. So we were just looking at it in Revit, and now here we're looking at it in Bluebeam. Start out with, I'm going to start hiding a few things. Click on my ceiling here. So just to remind everybody that in the 3D screen, what you see your mouse touching isn't necessarily making connection with the 3D image. So sometimes you have to move your mouse back and forth to actually capture what it is that you want to select. Revit has the tab key to help you select through things. Bluebeam does not. So it's kind of a function of just moving your mouse and clicking until you find what you're looking for. I'm going to hide the roof. And I want to make my floor a nice, give it a nice, there we go. And there's our little 3D view of this room with just some single ductwork. And the object here is to show you what a U3D, how that comes in. And now let's take a look at our 3D model tree. Here we go. So you can see we've got our air terminals and we've got our columns. So under our columns, I want to add a column, and let's just take a look at some columns that we might make sense out of. This phase column, this is directly out of Revit. This is all the metadata that comes directly out of Revit. Things like area, things like the actual size of the, whether it's a terminal or a piece of ductwork, and the element ID right down here. The element ID this is the number in Revit. That's the element ID in Revit. And you could see there, as I selected something in the 3D model tree, it went ahead and selected it, and it zoomed in for us. It selected it on the model. And same, if I select something on the model, it's going to show up in the model tree as well. So that's how those two kind of work back and forth. So let's do this here. I'm going to select ducts, and I want to select, let's see, I've got ducts. Sorry for the dead noise here. So I'm looking for not pipe fittings. I want ducts and I want duct fittings. So you can see here in the model tree, you've got every single element, and you've got your nodes. You've got your top level nodes and your lower level nodes. That's not going to get my fittings. Anyway, so what I want to show you here, guys, is let's go back to ducts, air terminals. I don't want air terminals. I'm just going to shut some of these guys down. Doors, duct fittings. There we go. And I get ducts. Here we go. So I'm just using Control to select ducts and duct fittings. So there we are. Now if I click down here and select isolate, what I wanted to show you here is you could just isolate whatever data in this 3D PDF that you'd like to look at. So here I've just got my ducts, I've got my return and my supply. And then I could come over here into my appearance and change the color. And then I could save this view. So I could come over here to manage views, and we'll just add a view. And save. So the 3D PDF is really like a container that contains all of this data, all of these views, all of this information. And there's a lot of things you could do with it. There's a lot of ways you can manipulate it. And the object today is to just really show you how to create these views using IFC and a U3D and the difference between those two. There is a great deal more that you can do with the 3D PDFs, and as far as creating the 3D PDFs and cropping things down. We don't have a great deal of time today to get into a great deal of all the different ways to do this. So here what we looked at is hiding things or isolating things. And I'm just taking a quick look at my notes, want to make sure I cover everything. All right. So the next thing I'd like to show everybody is how to place a 3D view on a 2D PDF. So I'm going to take this this guy here. There it is. So here is this room. Actually, this is a different version of the room that we just had open. But essentially what I want to do is I want to take this 3D PDF and place it on a sheet. So let me go to a file over here. Oh, here it is, duct sections. So here I've got a sheet with some views on it. And you could see that I've got my 3D view right down here. I've went ahead and placed it. I've already placed it in here. And I just wanted to show you the end result first. And we'll kind of go backwards. I'll show you how to delete this view from here and then how to actually place the view on here. So if I come to my edit PDF content, down here at the bottom, add and edit 3D content. That actually highlights the this little 3D PDF, and I could select it and just hit delete. I go back to that PDF content. I think there was a command in there for delete. Add and edit. Oh, sorry about that, folks. Well, it's worked just fine, except when I'm showing everybody. Well, so that's where I would go to delete this. And actually, to make this work, I need to delete this here so I could show you how to add it. So just bear with me, folks. Add, paste, select. I don't know what's, nope, that's adding. All right, well, rather than waste time with that, what we've done here is, and I'll show you, so it's the same kind of process. I'm gonna come down here to PDF content, add and edit 3D content. And it's basically, what I'm gonna do is put in a small window, and then it's gonna come and ask me to place some U3D information is what it's going to work with. So I'll select open. All right, here we go. And okay. And here we go. So forget about that one on the bottom, my bad. So here we go. We've got this 3D PDF now that we've just basically placed on our 2D PDF. And we could hide things. We could come in and change color of things. This particular drawing already has a 3D view of the ductwork, and I just wanted to show how to create a 3D view to add to it. All right, so next, we've looked at adding a 3D view or 3D PDF to the 2D document. Let's look at doing a report. So this is my large model. I'm gonna close this guy, and I'm gonna open up my room. And as you notice, because of the amount of data, it takes Bluebeam a little bit of time to actually, to load things and the like. All right, so here is my nice little 3D room. And next, what I want to show you is how to create a CSV file. I am just going to click right over here next to where it says 3D model tree. And I'm going to come down to summary, export to CSV. And it'll create a CSV file. And then I'm not going to go through that process with you, but what I want to show you is it will open up. Here's a nice finished CSV file, a little cleaner. So essentially, you'll go through the process of making a CSV file, and it'll ask you if you want the columns to be delimited by commas, and the answer to that will be yes. So wherever it sees a comma, it'll give you a column, and then here is here's an Excel spreadsheet of all the metadata that's inside the model. Things like system type I also wanted to show. So you've got like supply air, there's also return air. Basically all the metadata that's inside there will show up right here. And the next thing I wanted to show really quick, since I do have time, is, and I know nobody has asked, but I went ahead and took the liberty to create this for those of us that use other kinds of PDF viewers. So I've created this 3D PDF in Bluebeam, and I just wanted to show folks that it can also be viewed in other PDF software. This here is Adobe, and here's our model tree. Here is basically our hover bar. So just a little more info. You could select things here. So other types of PDF software can also read the 3D PDF. Just wanted to show that briefly. And let's see. And folks, I know we went kind of rapidly through all this. And once again, this is just a small snapshot into what a 3D PDF can do. And yeah, so that's about all that I've got to share with you guys. And at this point, I'd like to go ahead and open this up for any questions.
Okay, let's see here. Thank you so much for that information, Vinny. That was very informative. And I would like to go ahead and give everyone here a few minutes, a few seconds to answer any questions into either the question pane or the chat pane. I am reviewing both. So I will be looking to see if you have any questions today. Just give everyone a moment here. Okay. So we do have a few questions here, Vinny.
Okay,
So this question comes from Jessica. She asked it a little bit earlier in the presentation. How do you unhide elements you have hidden?
good question. So let's go ahead and essentially, while you're in the 3D screen and hovering over the 3D model, if you right click at the very top, and I could show you, Diane, if you want to,
Yeah, absolutely.
I could share my screen back.
We can see it currently.
Okay, great. So in here, let me get rid of this guy. So I've hidden this one wall. If I right click, just hovering inside the model and click on show all parts, it will unhide everything that we hid. And thank you for that question.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Jessica, for that question. Hopefully that answered your question, and we're gonna continue on here. Okay, so I did get a question of, can you provide the recording link for today's Bluebeam 3D PDFs webinar? And yes, we can. We certainly can. It is being recorded, and that recording will be available, so I can definitely send that. All right. We have another question. Besides opening IFC or U3D files, which are created from other 3D software, can Bluebeam create 3D models from scratch?
At this time, that's not something Bluebeam can do with it from a 2D PDF. You cannot do that from scratch. It won't generate a 3D view for you, but it does work, importing it in through other file formats. So it essentially needs to be like a IFC or a U3D. Good question, though. Good question. And that, perhaps is a question, in Bluebeam, in your software, you could always go to help and go to make a suggestion under the help menu. And Bluebeam, as Diana had mentioned earlier, they as well as Topcon, they listen to their customers. And every time you see a new release of software, it's because they're answering a lot of these workflow issues that folks come to them with. So that's a great question, and yeah, I would definitely consider forwarding that to Bluebeam.
Okay, thank you so much, Vinny, for that answer. Moving on, we have another question here from Christian. Can we export a 3D PDF from AutoCAD?
So yes, in AutoCAD, you'd have to create an IFC file. And I don't know the workflow for that, but if I get your email, I can, yeah, if you leave your email address with us, I can get that information for you.
Okay, thank you, Vinny. All right, Christian, we will be following up with you, so thank you for your question this morning. Moving on, we have another question for you today, Vinny. It's from Jim, and he is asking, can you review how to provide CSV?
Oh yeah, so let's take a look at that. So if I go to report, I went ahead and made my report. Let me see if I could open that. I'll just go back here. So if I click right next to the 3D model tree and then come down to summary, export to CSV, and we'll create a CSV of this particular file right here. And this here is going to be the CSV file that I created earlier. So I want to open that one up. So first you want to export it, and then I'm going to come in and Let me see if I could show you this. Okay. Oh, what I want to do with this is I'll come to Excel and I'll come to File, Open, and I'll pick this one here was my CSV. No, that's the wrong one. File, Open. So what I'm going to do is when I go to open my file, instead of Excel files, I'm going to click All Files. And then I'll see every file that's in there. I'll click the output file that I created earlier. I labeled it A, and it just shows in here as file. It doesn't show CSV file. And open. So here's what you get with a CSV file. Make this larger. Nope. All right. So delimited right here, characters as commas or tabs will separate each field. So I'll go with delimited, and you get this basically, you see the file with all the data in here. And then next, then there's more options for what are considered delimiters. And a delimiter is just going to be wherever there's a space between your metadata. So I'm going to say comma is also going to be another delimiter. And then you can see it starts to create our columns. And then next, if I want to have a specific format of my text, I'll just click on finish. And then it gives you this Excel spreadsheet. And then you'd have to come in and basically, double click on each one of these fields to open them up. But that would be opening up the CSV file and opening it in Excel. Thank you. That was a good question.
Okay, thank you so much, Jim, for that question. I really hope that answers it. We still have a few minutes here for additional questions, so definitely feel free to insert them in the questions pane or the chat. Moving on, we do have a question coming in from Craig. So rather than Revit, can a 3D model from Chief Architect be used?
Chief Architect. So you can use other softwares as long as you could create an IFC file. So I'm not familiar with Chief Architect, but if you go to your export or to your output, if you could export your file as an IFC file or as a U3D file, the IFC is kind of the standard format that's being used. And as long as you could export to the IFC, Bluebeam will create the 3D PDF from the IFC file.
Okay, thank you so much for that answer, Vinny, and thank you to Craig for that question.
Yeah.
All right, everyone, it appears that those are the last of the questions. Definitely feel free to reach out to us should any other questions arise. We are here to help you, and we are here to answer any questions as we are able. So while we do have a few minutes here to wrap up, I would like to just thank everyone for attending, and I would like to also state that the Review 20 release is up and coming. Once again, that date is August 18th. That is next Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, next Tuesday. We're so excited for this release. It's going to come with great improvements. Some of those improvements are with regards to collaboration capabilities, communication and task efficiency. And so we're very excited to share all of that information with you. Please be on the lookout for our emails and on our social media platforms, we will have information pertaining to that release as well. And once again, that webinar will be hosted next month. So unless if anyone has any further questions, I'd like to thank our presenter Vinnie today for a great presentation. Thank you very much, Vinnie. And we certainly look forward to seeing everyone on the next one. I'll let Vinnie say a few words as well.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining. Thank you for your time. And yeah, once again, any questions that do come up about this 3D PDF, please go ahead and send an email to us. Diana, do they have that a link that they could send an email question to us?
Yes, absolutely. You can send us questions at info@topconsolutions.com.
Perfect. And we'll get that answered for you as quickly as possible. Thank you and best wishes. I hope everybody gets out there and has some fun with this 3D PDF. And thank you again for your time today. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.